FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 1/15/20. Well, so far, the year has started with a bang. Certainly, if you're over in Iran and you were a certain disfavored general that everyone wanted gone, both your own government and the largest superpower in the world, it was a real bang. And I have a feeling it's only going to get better from here. Our good friend is with us, Gerard Lameiro, and you know him well, PhD, author, political analyst, expert on forecast models. Gerard, we both shared the same success in 2016, predicting that Trump would win out, and he did. And I even said the day he was elected that he was going to be reelected. So I might have you beat there. I might have you beat there. The other thing that I predicted, and this was shortly after he was inaugurated, was that I'm not sure about the wall. It looks like the Democrats are really going to obstruct. My prediction is that Trump will force the Mexican military to man the borders and stop the influx. And sure enough, what happened 4 or 5 months ago? Trump forced Mexico to guard not only their southern border, but their northern border. And it's made a big, big difference. Plus that with the wall. But hey, going off to 2020 here, I can't see any of these Democrats getting elected dog catcher, let alone becoming president.
I agree. I think all the candidates are, in essence, just going through the motions. I don't think any of them are a strong candidate. No one can challenge, of the bunch, can challenge Trump in any systematic way. It's going to be whoever gets nominated, whoever gets that title is going to be very busy for a number of months, and then they're going to lose. That's pretty much what it is. My electoral college vote now is very lopsided in favor of Donald Trump.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't see who can beat him, and I don't believe any of these so-called candidates now are going to wind up being the actual candidate for president. I think this is a fake out, that the elites in the Democratic Party have already chosen their person, their candidate of choice. It's not Bernie. It's not Pete Buttigieg. It's not Pocahontas Lizzie Warren. It's not Joe Plugs Biden. None of these guys. It's somebody else behind the curtain.
It could very well be. There's a lot of indication. I try to, take the best of what I got and assume that one of them gets nominated. But there's a lot of evidence that no one will get nominated from this batch because they're all weak. They're all sort of canceling each other out. And it's highly likely that there will be a brokered convention, and probably people are already picking sides right now behind the curtain and picking out who that person might be. And there's several people been named, people that might do better in the Rust Belt, people that might do better with some minority groups, because Trump is making inroads into Black American votes and also Hispanic American votes. And they're worried about that because they can see the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah. And so how much leeway is he really making? How much headway is he making in these? I mean, I know you've seen the surveys. I've seen them. They're saying like 34% approval in the African American community and 30% Hispanic. Do you believe those numbers?
Well, 2016 was a sea change election, what I call critical election. It's one of those that happens every roughly 36 years in our history. They don't happen very often, but they signal a big change in the parties, the electorate, the issues, and, if you will, the zeitgeist of the time, the overall flavor of how people see themselves in the country. And we had that in 2016, and we're seeing the repercussions of that. In other words, what happens next? And we are clearly getting a much more conservative judiciary. Trump has almost 200 people nominated and appointed that are constitutional conservatives. That's going to make a huge difference moving forward. but we're getting this in all areas. And I think that the election here is one of them that we're seeing major differences.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'm thinking paradigm shift. We see
right?
these.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's what it is. It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah. Yep. So I see it a lot. It happens throughout politics in America.
Oh, it does. And it happens, as I said, usually associated with a critical election. Right now, the Black American votes, they basically were taken for granted by the Democratic Party for 5 decades. They were made promises. Promises were never delivered. Their economics didn't really improve much. And here, Trump has made a sea change in this past 3 years. We have, the absolute lowest unemployment for Black Americans. And, a lot of Black Americans say, hey, this Trump did a pretty good job. My son's got a job finally. And some people say, I feel a little safer in my neighborhoods because I know the president supports the police. Whereas before, the police were like secondhand citizens in a lot of, neighborhoods in big cities. But believe it or not, most Americans want a safe place. I mean, everybody needs police to take care of criminals and burglars and things like that. And so you're seeing the seat change, and it's possible Trump will actually get 42% of the Black vote. If he does that, this is going to be a real big landslide.
Yep. I can see that. It's definitely going to happen. I think it's going to be major. What about impeachment? Where is that heading to? Because obviously
impeachment has the odd effect of actually helping Trump because it's really solidifying the base, but in funny ways. It's one thing to say the base is going to go out and vote, but I've actually firsthand visited people who are, meeting and stuff, and I was shocked because a typical meeting that might have 10 or 15 Republicans get together to talk about the next election, they might have 150, and those people are like fired up and they're all ready to work night and day to get Trump elected. So you're going to see some states that are going to go back into play. For example, I'm really thinking that Trump might be able to pull off a victory in Colorado, which is quite a thing since that state has flipped blue in 2018 and that. It may flip back red. And why? Mm-hmm. Because the people there are so fired up about what the Democrats have done and this socialism that they can't stand.
Yeah, and Nevada too. And hey, look what's going on in Virginia with that anti-Second Amendment thing. What's your take on that?
That's backfiring on the Democrats. The whole impeachment thing is actually solidifying the base, but in addition, it's moving people toward supporting Trump. You have a lot of Democrats who may not have switched their party affiliation yet, but they're basically saying the party has left me. These are a bunch of radical leftists, socialists, and they're not the people that I came to vote for over the decades. They're not the Democrats my parents voted for.
Yeah.
And they're actually switching allegiances to be Trump supporters.
It's so funny you say that. My parents were hardcore Democrats. I don't know how I wound up as a libertarian. But they were thinking Democrats. They weren't knee jerk. We hate everybody. But, back then, the Republican Party was the party of country club Republicans who were anti-Semites and a little bit xenophobic, if you will. And they weren't really welcoming. And the Democrat Party was the party of the working man. And my father fought in World War II. To think of the way the troops get treated now and the way the left views the military, there's no way that my father could have ever been a Democrat in this day and age had he lived to almost 100. He'd be 98 today. He would never have voted for these people. Would never. Bernie? No way.
Now, they're losing people. They're losing support. So the more they've pushed the impeachment, the numbers have actually shifted dramatically. And I'm talking about not just the forecast models that are shifting, but also even the polls are shifting. And those tend to be, they've got issues with them. Let's put it that way. I've written about, some of the problems with polls, which
yes.
I'm not sure they've ever cleared up.
No.
But what we're seeing, though, is the numbers moving toward Trump It looks like it's going to be a strong victory for Trump, and it looks like it's going to be a retaking of the House by the Republicans and a few more seats in the Senate.
Yeah, I think you are correct in that. Depending how many they can steal, how many seats can be stolen, you might be right. The vote harvesting, all that great stuff that the Democrats excel
all
in.
All the new techniques for
high tech,
altering the ballots.
And you just see this, turns your stomach. But I think they're going to be universally rejected, and rightfully so, because they're so out of touch. I mean, I just, granted, the younger people, they don't know yet. They don't understand really the difference between between socialism and capitalism and why, and they believe in climate change, all this great stuff, right? And they really don't get it, do they?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex Trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming, led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange, under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
No, but there is good news on the horizon. That is, it's true they come out of school largely indoctrinated with the left ideology, but as they get a little older, 26, 28, and start seeing the deductions from their paycheck, and they start having enough time to read and get exposed to other ideas, they find out that they don't buy what they were indoctrinated with in college. And so you're seeing a migration or a movement in the later 20s that's actually much more conservative.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think, like you said, you've really done it well, though, because you've connected the fact paradigm shifts occur when there's a special type of election. I think you could go back and you can say this, like FDR, like Woodrow Wilson, like
McKinley.
Ronald Reagan.
McKinley.
Yeah. All the McKinley,
Andrew Jackson, 1828.
Yeah.
It happens very...
Lincoln.
Not that regularly, just every so often. It usually turns out to be 28 to 36 years. Lincoln
is one of those paradigm shifts. And you can just go and you can really identify them. I think that I think we've got a lot more exciting fireworks to see. How do you think Trump is going to change his approach in this election? I mean, he's doing what he did before, but he seems more sure-footed, right?
Well, he is, because he's president. He also knows the folks who, if you will, I'll put in quotes, are his enemies. And he knows those that are more likely to support him. He understands the dynamics of it. He also understands the power he has as president. The president who knows his strings that he can pull is a pretty powerful person. And I think he's been in there long enough to figure it out. He's got on-the-job training, whereas most people who run, hotel construction and putting up golf courses probably doesn't have quite the same experience to go into it. But he's a sharp guy, and he's able to figure it out, and I think he's got to figure it out. The recent Toledo rally, his number one rally in 2020, was approximately 3 times the size of the previous Toledo rally in 2016. That's an incredible difference, that he's picked up so much support in 3 years.
Yeah. And what about the Blexit movement that's happening, Candace Owens, and the walk away movement? How effective do you think they are? Because, of course, the mainstream media hasn't seen fit to report on any of it, have they?
Well, the mainstream media has their own agenda. They're a leftist ideology, and they push that, and they don't bother to report on the regular facts. That's why a lot of liberals even look to conservative sources because they can't get the news from their own sources that are favorable to their own beliefs. But all of those trends are moving in the wrong direction for the Democratic Party. And you'll probably remember me saying back in 2015, and I still believe it, I'm putting dates on it now, that the Democratic Party as a party will shut down. And I think it'll happen in 2021 after the terrible losses they're going to have in the House and the loss of the presidential election. And I think that they're just losing too much support. You can't keep a party together and be a major national party where there's only a two-party system.
Okay.
I think the Democratic Party is over, just like the Whigs. Parties do not have to exist forever.
We can only hope.
They're very successful, but they're not now.
Well, let me tell you my theory on the impeachment. I believe there is a major schism coming to the Democratic Party, compliments of Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff. All right, fellow Jews, and I believe they're being set up to take the fall for the failure of the impeachment, and that will lead to a burst of anti-Semitism and a splintering of Jews from the Democratic Party, because they've more or less thrown their hands in all full tilt for Islam, and the Jewish people be damned.
That could very well happen. There are things going on there, dynamics, and it could break different ways, but I think your way is one that's very plausible.
Hey, look, like I'm atypical anyway, because I've been a libertarian since I was 19 for over 40 years, so I can't use me as the archetype here, but I can see that this anti-Semitism is up in New York. It's up around the country. You've got Ilhan Omar and the other one, Alana Presley, and the third one, what's her name? Omar? No, I said Ilhan Omar. The other one, whatever her name is, and AOC, and all complete anti-Semites. So eventually something's going to happen here, right?
I would expect that will happen. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I think that all the energy is behind the trend. We just have to see the trend play out.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. And it's, the media, their thing used to be the mainstream media, or I should say the communications division of the progressive movement. They used to be into connecting the dots. I wrote an article about this a while ago, Gerard. Now they're into disconnecting the dots. Yes.
There's a lot of dishonesty because they don't want to face reality. And they are moving along with the Democratic Party away from the mainstream of American voters. And that's the reason why the party is going to see itself as a minority party. I mean, even if it exists, it's going to have no power. It's going to be one of these parties that has a name on it, but nobody ever votes for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually going to shut down because there are various trends that have happened. There are about 7 different variables you look at to study the power of a party, and they're breaking down. It's like down and to the right. Those graphs they show like on sales, either up and to the right or down and to the right. Well, this is down and to the right.
Yeah.
They're on their way down.
Yeah, well,
and, if you follow the trend lines, they almost always lead you in the right direction.
It is rather enjoyable to watch, you have to say, because they've done it to themselves here.
Absolutely.
Right? They've completely...
Well, and they ignore the reality. They ignore the American people. I mean, these people are smart enough to conduct legitimate polls that give you legitimate information, and you know what the American people want. But when you take that information and say, who cares? We're going to do it our way, they're basically flaunting their customer. It's like a business, and it's like a customer. If you tell the customer, tough luck, you're not getting what you want, what happens? They go to another business.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, so far they haven't up and done that yet, but I think it is inevitable. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because I really... more or less despise both parties, even though I might identify more so with the Republican Party in terms of ideology, but they don't practice their ideology, right? They're just, up until Trump, it's like, oh, we can't shrink government. There's nothing we can do. We tried our hardest, but the big bad Democrats they won't let us do it, right? And that was disingenuous. It was a lie. And they used that as an excuse for why they should be reelected. right? And
Yeah, well, you know what? It's not working because
yeah,
an awful lot of them left. They either retired or wouldn't run
yeah,
again in 2018. That's why the House flipped.
hmm,
It wasn't because the socialists were suddenly loved by everybody. It was more that the establishment Republicans lost. They lost the House.
yeah, exactly.
And they lost it because they did nothing in the first 2 years of the Trump administration to help Trump.
Because
And
that
now
idiot,
we're going to see the House flip
yeah,
back again
right?
because there are going to be some more establishment Republicans who are out. But
Hmm.
now the people who were really bad to Trump, they're going to have to deal with the wrath of the public too.
Yeah. Hey, the guys like Mitt Romney, guys like Paul Ryan, he's gone. Most of them are gone now, which is a great thing. And we're actually getting people, decent people who really want to represent their constituents and actually fight back. Because, we never fought back. This party
That's
never,
absolutely
not we,
correct.
but the party itself never fought back. And
They became a happy minority to just
yeah,
sit there and do nothing, but have their perks, have their big retirement benefits,
oh yeah,
have
you
their
gotta have the perks.
right, and do that. But they basically didn't put up a fuss, so they didn't have any trouble,
Yeah.
and they'd get enough money from donors to keep them in office every 2 years.
Hey, and what about the think tanks? They were pure frauds.
Well,
Finally,
they support the system.
finally, somebody actually wants to do something and to actually implement conservative ideas and somewhat libertarian ideas. And what do? They fight this person every step of the way, and they're just fakes. They're phonies, and they're disingenuous. And good riddance to them.
Well, I think the American people win in the end. And I really believe that's what's happened. I said it. I saw the trend starting in 2010 when the House lost 63 seats. Democrats lost 63 seats.
Mm.
That has continued, and it continues as we go into 2020. This
Yeah.
is a multi-election trend. It's a major trend that's going to basically set us up until 2050, 2060
And
in the United States.
it's a worldwide trend too here.
Absolutely. It's
I,
because of the communications that we have,
Mhm.
the internet, other factors. It's also global, and you're seeing it in England. Look at the socialists who got crowned.
yeah, Corbyn, Jeremy
in
Corbyn.
the recent
Yeah.
election there in Great Britain.
He was decimated. I mean, the guy was not even competitive, and he's gone now. And and then we see it all over the 60 weeks of the yellow vest movement in
Yeah,
France,
that's another one.
right? And we're seeing it in Iran. They wouldn't step on the Israeli flag and the U.S. flag that's painted on the street, which is like they're always told to do that because this is a good thing, right? They refused to do it. I think that regime, as a result of taking out Soleimani, is not long for this world because, and they might very well have turned him in, gotten rid of him. I think he outlived his usefulness, and they wanted him to be gone, but they couldn't. No one was strong enough to take him out on their own, so they said, "Hey, let the U.S. do it." My gut feel on that one. He overlived his usefulness. So we got some positive trends here, but we've also got negative trends because this is a party, the Republican Party, which has often snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Basically, a lot of stupid people, a lot of corrupt people, and a lot of people who are out to line their own pockets rather than work for the good of the people.
Yeah, but I will add this though: the good part of the news is a lot of those rhinos and establishment Republicans are gone. A lot more are going, and they're losing left and right. The people don't want those people anymore, and they're getting rid of them. They're not only voting against Democrats, they're voting against Republicans. They want people in there that do the kinds of policies that they want. And it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes longer because they're so entrenched.
Yeah. Well, hey, from your mouth, Gerard, that's all I can say. Hey, we want to find out more about you and connect with you on the web. Where is the best place to find you these days?
Great News for America. That's all one word. Great News for FOR America.com. And I've got about 150 web pages. I do a weekly blog usually. And and that's free to read, no cost. And also my books are listed there. I now have a sixth book that's coming out, launches tomorrow, called Real World Socialism. It's all about the number one issue in the election this year is going to be socialism. Bernie and some of his folks are going to be pushing socialism, as are many of the Democrat candidates. And Trump has already said in the State of the Union, America will never become a socialist nation. And he is making socialism probably his number one issue. And recently, he's also turned his attention to fighting Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Why? Because Bernie Sanders is moving into first place among all these also-rans.
If you are to believe the polls, which are not believable, remember I started that movement, lie to your pollster, and I think it's well underway. Just don't tell them the truth. They don't need to know, and just lie to them, because who the heck knows who they really are. And you shouldn't be giving that information out. So just tell them you're voting a straight ticket for Bernie. And if he can't make it, then Elizabeth Warren is your pick. And
there you go.
We should have a lot of fun there, right?
I think a lot of people are doing that anyway.
I know.
Even without following your lead, they're just doing it intuitively. It's amazing.
Right. And it's also...
people are turned off by the media, and they want to sink the media as much as they want to sink the Democratic Party and the socialists.
Plus, when you proclaim your allegiance to Trump, you're immediately a target. And, like you got half the population wants to kill you. And
yeah,
so,
isn't that ridiculous?
So nobody in their right mind is going to admit this. So just take it to the next level and don't do anything there. Just tell them exactly what it is you think they want to hear. All right. Well, we're going to leave it at that. Anyway, take a look at our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. The Twitter feed's at Kerry Lutz. The Facebook page is financialsurvivalnetwork.com, and you can sign up for our free newsletter now. Gerard, we'll be having this conversation periodically in these coming months, and I think it's going to get more and more fun.
Absolutely. It should be a great year to sit back and study and analyze what's going on. I think if profound things are happening, and we need to stay on top of them so that we and your listeners benefit from what's going on.
Exactly. Agreed. All right. Thanks so much, Gerard. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds great.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.